So thank you all for being here today. We're here today for the Maiau series, Stretch and Stress Relief with Bridget, Kumeheiwa, Velasco. And thank you so much, Bridget, for doing this. She'll be doing this for the next, I believe, 4 sessions. Okay, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. First of all, I just want to mahalo Joyce for just bringing in, just jumping in here. Mahalo everyone for being here. Like Joyce said, this is a series of 4, and absolutely even if you can have to come late, leave early, whatever, even if it's 10 minutes just to come in, any little bit, please just take advantage, because this Maiau series is so amazing. I'm so happy to be invited to be part of it. And just looking at like the terminology that we use when we describe Maiau, being diligent in your thinking and your health, this really fits in with what we're going to do today. Just real quick background on myself. I am a physical therapist by trade for 24 years, but then now work for the health department for the last 7.5 years. And just the wreckage on my body, being at the desk dwelling all that time, even more so, bringing back movement into our life and our lifestyle and our patterns, especially now with all the stresses, with the political, with the pandemic, just the social distancing, all that stresses that accumulates in our body. So I'm hoping that what I find really useful as been a yoga instructor and fitness instructor for about 20 years, kind of long, that you guys will benefit. This is, to me, I think of it as like a community, even though we're not, hopefully one day we'll be back face to face sooner rather than later. But even so, and the biggest thing, I would love to get you guys away from screens, but we'll take advantage of technology. So that being said, if as we're going along, like I said, when Luana jumped in, if you don't want your screen on, no problem. If you want to just pop it on, if you want me to check your form on anything or not, no stress. Bless you. And I guess generally, if you're not, if you want to mute yourself, otherwise. And then the other thing that I was going to just say was, I forgot. Oh yeah, so just along that lines, if you have a request or a question, even during class, I'm really open. This is how I behave even in real life. Teaching classes is to just please, if you want to use the chat, or, I don't know if Joyce can kind of monitor the chat. In fact, maybe I'll toss it out right now as I'm finishing up my intro, is if there's a certain part of your body that's stressing you out, or just something that you want to kind of focus on, if you want to pop that in the chat, I can definitely weave that into our class today. For the next, every single Thursday at noon, I'm going to try to the same structure so you kind of know what to expect, which is we're going to start seated. Hopefully everybody has something to sit on, even if it's the floor, the earth, the aina, just come down on, and then if you want, like Julie was saying, she brought her block. Like if you have something you want to blanket, if you want to sit on it, you can either sit down on your hips or cross-legged, whatever is easiest for you. But the purpose of a blanket, or even like sometimes I have been known, I'll run into a class and I'll just grab like my jacket and bundle it up. It's anything that elevates you. Is going to give you a little bit more freedom, especially if you're like me, like one side of my body is super tight. So thinking of it as an assistance versus any kind of, crutch or anything like that. So then the process starts seated, but then from there, we only stay in that for 10 minutes. And then we'll go into, I've been jabbing a little bit longer than I wanted to. Then we'll go into hands and knees, and then on our stomach, and then on our back. So all stress-free, not all.
Shut up.
And this can all be done if you need to be at your desk. Like say you somehow get pulled away, or you're just not comfortable on the mat. You can always do this on the desk. And same thing, if I'm showing something that doesn't quite fit, on your chair at the desk, please speak up or put it in the chat, and I can give you a modification. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking about that stuff and just go right into class if you guys are ready. And as I mentioned, this class is focused on trying to reduce stress and give you a little bit of stretch movement option patterns. to break up the general, you know, day-to-day kind of positioning that we are when we're forward, especially over computers, driving, etc. So that being said, we also have stuff going on in our mind. And so our mind and our body, the quickest access to that is our breath, right? So we're going to spend these first few moments every single class on our breath. And I invite you to just take this basic, you know, stuff that you already know, but it really helps, I think, to kind of have that kind of objective, like myself included, when somebody else talks me through it, you don't need to focus on anything else, right? Because you're right there in your body. And that's the purpose of the breath, to bring that body and mind into stillness. And that way we can go back to those challenges in our life, which we're not denying they're there. We're just stepping back from them. So then we can bring ourselves into a place where we can better respond, be creative with our solutions, be open-minded, and come from a place of settledness. So if you're wherever you're comfortable, just go ahead and draw your crown of your head up toward the ceiling, ground your hips down. I myself might change positions. So if you want to, just change positions. But coming into our breath, the diaphragm, everybody knows, is your breathing muscle, right? That's the muscle that should be doing most of your breathing, not your stomach, not your neck, not your chest. It should be your diaphragm. And that's a pancake-shaped muscle that's dome-shaped, and it sits underneath your rib cage. So as we inhale, it drops to make room for that breath to fill up the lung space. And then as we exhale, it floats back up, right? So we inhale, let that dome drop, fill up space, exhale, pretty relaxing. You're not trying to force that exhale, not trying to tighten the core. And that's what we call diaphragmatic breathing. So there's all different breathing patterns, but this one has been shown in actually research, we're at college, that it actually can change that fight or flight response, that autonomic response in our body, down to the acetylcholine and the kind of stress hormones and stress chemicals. It can change that. So love diaphragmatic breathing. So when you're ready, place your one hand on your abdomen, one on your chest, and just feel for a second. Just feel. Just see what's going on. You might feel your heart beating. You might notice it's beating a little faster or a little slower than you would have guessed. Just check in with yourself, because it all starts with finding out what's going on. You can always move from where we're at, right? So for most people, myself included, I think we think of breathing as, like, what do you think of as breathing? Like your lungs, your chest, maybe you think of your mouth or your nose. But really, today, let's see if we can think of that diaphragm, okay? So as we inhale, just whenever your next inhale starts, just visualize that diaphragm dropping down, and it might actually cause your stomach to move forward because it's dropping into that stomach space. So allow that Buddha belly to come out a little bit. And then as you exhale, let that diaphragm lift back up and just soften. And again, inhale. And you might notice underneath your top hand that your chest expands, but don't force that, just allow that to happen. And exhale. Start to come a little bit more into yourself, maybe even soften or close your eyes. And on your next inhale, fill up, coming from the nose, through the throat, through the chest, to that Buddha belly. And as you exhale, just kind of reverse that pattern. The belly soften, the chest soften, the collarbone soften. And again, breathing in, filling up, softening. Breathing out, letting go, releasing. We'll do that 2 more times. Inhaling, see if you can do this breath with your lips together, breathing that breath through the nose. And as you exhale, soften that Buddha belly, soften that chest wall, softening the shoulders. On this last breath together, realize that your lung space, top part of your lungs is all the way under your collarbone. So as you fill up from the top to the bottom, just feel that all the way up above your collarbone. That's how high your lungs go. And as you exhale, the bottom of our lungs go down into that lower part of the intercostals, that lower rib space. So just exhale all the way deep down. After you completely finish that exhale, slowly start to open your eyes if they were closed. We'll get a little movement going, but stay connected to that space you just brought to yourself. You developed that, right? So you have that ability to move back to that. So even if it means muting me out for a little bit, or if you notice yourself dancing away, draw yourself back just with that breath. So myself, I'm getting a little tight already. So I'm going to change my leg position. I'm going to put my other shin in the front. So if you're crisscross like me, go ahead and do that. If you're seated on the chair, maybe see if you need to move forward or back. If you're on your knees, maybe see if you need to scoot your hips around, because we're going to do a little bit more in seated here. Okay, so we're going to do a little rotation. So keeping the length of the spine, throw your hips grounded on whatever you're seated on. And as you inhale, that same inhale breath we practiced, start to just draw your body around to, I'm going left. Which way are you guys going? If you go left, I can't see. So let's all go left. Take your left hand behind you. And then when you're ready, bring your right hand to the outside of your left knee. Now that generally is going to cause us to kind of pull our left knee up. See if you can purposely pull your right shoulder back and press your left knee away as you use that as the little widget to press your way back a little further. Bring your awareness to your eye gaze for a minute. Relax your eyes, soften them, and even bring those pupils to the left corners of your eyes. Feel how just dragging your eye pupils to the very left corner, that changes the dynamic a little here. You're going to take 2 more breaths in your rotation here. As you do that, pull your right hip back behind you. So it's pulling right. Your right hip is pulling right, even as your left shoulder pulls around to the left. So you're really trying to allow for this rotation through that mid-spine as you inhale high. Exhale, revolve. Drop your chin. Relax your shoulders. Squeeze the middle of the shoulder blades. Inhale and reach up. Exhale, rotate. Gently return to center on your next inhale. Just soften, come back into the middle, and then maybe you switch, crisscross the legs the other way again. See how your hips are feeling. So we're gonna go the other side. Okay, so we're gonna start the rotation just casual, just kind of rotating. Okay, and then bring that right arm behind you. Left hand across to that right knee or outer thigh. Notice again, this just kind of naturally might pull that left shoulder forward. Purposely pull that left shoulder back, and then as you rotate, draw that awareness of those little micro rotations. It's about 2 or 3 degrees between each vertebrae, just little tiny rotations that cascade into a bigger rotation. We want to target that thoracic spine. That tends to be a little stickier on a lot of us in this plane. So again, coming into that breath, try not to get too distracted. I tend to talk a lot into the anatomical side. If that's not resonating with you, come into your breath. This is your practice, this is your place. Let's come into that eye movement. Shift that, we call it drishti, but in Sanskrit, but that pupil coming across to the right corner of your eye sockets. So Deepak Chopra, he's a Western and Eastern medical doctor you probably all have heard of. I think he's written like 50 books. He speaks of, he's written books on the positioning of our eyes, our eyeballs, change our brain patterns. So just pulling out to the corners. I should do this more often because I'm trying to remember. I think it enhances memory. So keep pulling through as you breathe twice more here. Notice if you need to squeeze that shoulder blade, the lower position, like the bra line, the shoulder blade, draw that in. Tighten up those muscles. There's some activity even as we soften the heart. We soften the breath. Exhale out. One more time. Breath in. One more degree. Breath out. And release through center. Nice. Okay. Now we're just going to do a little side bend here. So once again, checking in. We'll be in seated for a few more minutes. So if you need to change position, do so. Maybe heighten up that blanket or your block. Take your, let's go to the left. So take your left hand to the floor or your thigh. Take your right arm up and let's go side bend. So side bend, that lateral flexion. Let's go ahead and push that right shoulder back so that it's kind of in line with your ear. And then from there, rotate your eye gaze up to the right. I like to have a little bit more support, so I'm gonna place my hand on the floor and let my left elbow bend, and then I can actually press my lateral right rib cage out to the right to stretch my right elbow above me. Notice if you're collapsing in your left side, can you bring that breath and that breath awareness into that left lateral lung? There you go, open up that space. Some of us might feel this on our outer right hip or right shoulder. If you're tight in that space, breathe into that. Meet yourself where you're at. That's where we always start. Here's our inhale. And exhale. Inhale, reaching up. Let's take both arms up just for a nice reach. Here's a neat trick that I love anatomically. You know your armpits? Pull your armpits, suck them back. Like actively suck your armpits back. Feel how you kind of like hollow out your armpits? You just engaged your rotator cuff muscles. So a neat little like mini rehab, if anybody has shoulder issues, is just to suck those armpits back and engage those 4 tiny muscles of your shoulder rotators, your rotators there. And also that helps to activate the thoracic spine where we all can help with our posture. Let's go other side. Right hand to the floor or the thigh. Left arm reaching overhead. My bicep wants to kind of come forward to my forehead. I'm gonna actively pull that left arm back. And then from there, even suction that armpit a little bit more, engage that rotator cuff area. Maybe that right hand comes to the mat for more support. And then let's do that little eye trick, just pulling your eyes over to the left, maybe rotating the neck a little bit more, maybe even gazing up toward that left elbow or left bicep or tricep. Here's that big full breath. Maybe noticing you go further or not as far, just noticing, no judgment. Exhale out. Let's reach back to center. Inhale, big full breath. Fingertips really straighten. Get your fingers as straight as they can go. Activate all those tiny finger muscles that do so much work every day on the keyboard. And exhale out. Roll those shoulders out. We did okay. You guys still there? You're not back working on your computer, right? I have been guilty of that. We're gonna stay and focus on ourselves. You deserve this. Let's change position. When you're ready, come to hands and knees, quadruped. If you have tender kneecaps, and you have a little, you can even double up your mat if you want, or take your blankie, or again, just a sweater, jacket, put under your knees. We're gonna do a little weight bearing here. So look down at your hands, spread your fingers like starfish. And then from here, just feel how you're probably back in your wrists. So you're back on your wrists. See if you can put more weight forward into those finger pads. Push them into the finger pads, electrify, even grab onto the mat with your finger pads. Stay there with that strong active foundation as we stretch, lift the chin, lift the tail, arch the spine, squeeze the shoulder blades together. There's our cow posture. There's your inhale. Exhale, tuck your tail. Now squeeze the abdomen, draw your chin under, round the spine from neck to tail, breathe out. Let's do that twice more, cat, cow, cow, cat. Inhale, lift the chin, maybe even look up between the eyebrows at that third eye, that intuitive center, lift the tail up. Exhale, tuck, squeeze, draw the belly button to the spine. Draw that pico in, maybe even lift your internal organs and lift them up and squeeze them. Give them a little massage as you breathe out. And one more time, full breath in. Really pull the collarbones back, squeeze the mid-shoulders together, lift the tail, arch, really look up. One more sip of breath. Exhale, tuck tail, squeeze abdomen. Breathing out, maybe softening the eyes, maybe sticking your tongue out, and release. From here, make your knees wider. Bring your toes together. And start to sit your hips back to your heels. If that feels okay, maybe come down to your elbows. From here, if you're more practiced, like it sounds like Luana and Julie are, maybe walk your hands forward, coming into child's pose. See if you can keep your hips on your heels. If that's not working for you, don't worry about it. Work where you're at. We're going to stay in child's pose or modified child's pose about 3 breaths just to unload a little bit. If you like, while you're here, turn your palms up, get that shoulder open a little bit and rotate, but drop the forehead down and breathe. Softening and breathing, just staying here. While I talk over you, just don't worry about having to see anything. Just checking in. Noticing if your mind is starting to dance off. The mind likes to stay busy. It likes to think. That's kind of its job, so we don't blame it. That being said, as we spoke about before, that breath can help to just ease us away from all that stuff, just bringing us back to our center, really building this foundation, this wellspring of groundedness, of peacefulness. If you want to think of it as this kind of this bank that you have, so that when all those things that are going on out there, you come from this place that serves you best, and that ultimately serves your world best, your community best. Taking one more breath in your child's pose. Maybe drawing out the exhale a little bit longer. Now that you've been breathing a little bigger, you might find that you can really breathe out pretty deep into those deeper alveoli, just releasing through. Then we're going to climb back up into that quadruped. We're going to reset the knees under the hips, reset the hands under the shoulders, but I invite you to a wrist stretch. Now, if this gets too intense, I'm going to invite you to sit down. I'll show you that modification. But from here, try work with me. Computer wrist, you want to get stretched out. So I'm going to take and turn my fingers toward my knees. If that's not working for you today, go sideways. Anything that's going to change the dynamic of the tendons and the muscles that connect at the wrist flexor complex. If you're able to turn fingers all the way back toward the knees, you might notice that one side is easier or more tense. The side that's easier, you're going to want to walk it away. So for me, my left side is way more flexible than my right side. So I push my left hand way away. And then from here, press your hips back towards your heels a little bit without letting your palms lift off the floor. And then forward. Release a couple times, back and forth. Just stretching out those wrist flexors, those tiny tendons of the fingers. Even here, find the breath. Get a little rhythm. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. 3 more. If that's a little bit too loaded for you, you can just take that same movement here. And a lot of these things that we're working on doesn't mean you need a formal class to do, yeah? Okay, I'm gonna take 10 seconds of my life to serve my highest self by stretching, right? So that you can even do this at the desk. After you're done with that third one in quadruped, then go ahead and either press your way back into child's pose, or if you're feeling a little bit more spunky today and you're experienced in and you want to take your down dog, here's your down dog. If it's your first down dog of the day, maybe pedal the heels out. If it's your first down dog of the week or the year of your life, pedal your heels out. Don't worry about getting your heels to touch the floor. Mine never have. But just releasing. Continue there while I talk. Come down to your knees if you need to, and then go back up. We'll stay in down dog or child's pose for another 30 seconds or so. If you are in down dog, really take advantage of this mini inversion. So we're rinsing out our adrenals when we're a little upside down because we're getting that circulation. So our adrenals are where we process a lot of our stress. So we like to rinse them out. We like to be good to our adrenals. So just allow for that rinsing, that blood flow to the brain. I actually do inversions or upside downs, anything down dogs, when I feel sleepy, instead of grabbing the caffeine. To, if I'm in the middle of the day, I just, close my office door and just get my legs up a little bit. So little tricks of the trade. It works. It definitely works because you're getting that oxygen to the brain. Wherever you're at, come back into hands and knees. And let's do one more position from here. Now we're going to stretch our outer hips. This is one of my favorite poses, but it can also be one of the trickier ones. If you know pigeon and you want to start early, go to it and get a longer time there. Otherwise, stay with me with the walkthrough. We're going to start on the right leg, pulling the right knee up toward the right wrist. And then we're going to spin our right shin so that it's gently starting to be parallel to the top of your mat. Don't worry if it is not. It can be at an angle. From there, slide your left leg back behind you and sit down in your right plank. Now from there, angle your left hip down toward the mat. Take a second here. If this is, pretty mild and you want to go deeper, climb your way down to the mat and start to find that breath that we started with that class. If this is like, heck no, this is not working for me, then just come with me to the modification. You're going to flip onto your back. Take that same right leg, crisscross it over your left knee. And you're in the same position, stretching the same muscle group without the strain on the knee or the complication of the position on your hip. So wherever you're at, let's give ourselves the luxury of 30 seconds on each side. So 30 seconds, when you think about it, we could actually take only like 2 breaths during that time if we draw our breath, or even more. I mean, even less. We could even do one super long 15-second in, 15-second out. Wherever you're at, come back to that visual. Where's your diaphragm? When you're a little bit more compressed position, just take that opportunity to challenge yourself to really feel that Buddha belly underneath that. Okay, that's about 30 seconds. If you want to ignore me, you can stay there longer. I won't even know. If you're ready to transition, we're going to transition through down dog or child's pose or quadruped. So we're going to take, no matter what, you got to get that right leg out of the way. So use your core, lift up that leg, maybe bring it back behind you in hands and knees. Maybe press back to down dog, wiggle it out. Maybe you want to release your arms and just go to child's pose for a little bit. Just take a couple seconds on the intermission between sides so we can do the other. All right, when you're ready, let's go second side. So like I said, if you're a veteran, go to it. If you're starting with me on the setup, you're gonna come to hands and knees, bring your left knee all the way up to your left wrist, and then spin that left shin forward, approaching or aiming for the top of the mat. Walk that right leg back. And then the trick of the trade is to just orient here. You don't want to be kind of kapukahi. You don't want to be all tilted over because that just puts a lot of strain on places we don't need more strain, like our low back. From here, I'm going to really bring my right hip down. I don't want my right hip up. So work that you can manually take your right hip and force it down. Some people do really good by just kind of propping that left butt up, that left cheek up. And then from there, if you want to walk forward. If you're on that modification, maybe one side's good, one side the knee's kind of funky. Go down onto your back. Left side, bend that left knee, crisscross the ankle, pull that right knee in. I like to keep my left foot active, my top foot active, either in pigeon or in modified pigeon, figure 4 on your back. Because when you keep your foot dorsiflexed, what it does is it contracts the tibial muscles up into the knee, and that offers stabilization. So if you happen to have hypermobile knees, or you have any history of subluxation of the kneecap, or just in general, even if you don't have that, keeping that foot active is going to stabilize the knee, and it's not going to degrade from the stretch that you're getting at that outer hip. So I've probably been talking for almost 30 seconds, but let's take 1 or 2 more breaths where you're at. Come back into that. Diaphragm lowers, filling up. Diaphragm softens, releasing. Again, diaphragmatic breathing. If you do nothing else, if you learn nothing else from this class, diaphragmatic breathing, I can't say enough about it. I know I don't do enough of it, but it's always that practice, right? Striving for. You find yourself in that meeting, on that phone call, You might notice that everything's going on way up here. Everything's up here. The heartbeat, the breath, diaphragmatic breathing. It's going to balance it all out. It's going to ground you down. All right, let's come out of pigeon second side. So if you're in full pigeon, take your time to set hands under your shoulders. Really use that core. Lift that left leg. You got to get that left leg out from under you. And then maybe come to hands and knees. Maybe down dog. Maybe child's pose. Maybe a little of both. You like a smorgasbord. Take a couple seconds just to transition, absorb that posture. Postures that stretch our hips or move our hips are really related to our emotional center. So without going too much into depth, just knowing that the meridians correlate to the chakras. And so that lower chakra that is related to our hip is our emotional center. So grounding, stretching, releasing, paying attention, balancing, that all happens when we work through our hips. Anybody have any questions? Okay. All right. We get to lay down. Wherever you're at, I'm going to put my blanket down. But we're going to lay on our stomach first. So prone position. Just a little tiny bit of work just because we're here is to come to those hands and knees, but then bring your knees behind your hips rather than under your hips. Right, so we were in quadruped with knees under hips. Move those knees behind your hips. If you're like me, I go into like a hammock stomach. So use your strength of your core to tuck your tail, engage your core just enough so you feel some stability, not to stop your breath. Hang on to that strength, and then we're going to just lower down. Now you get to choose. I can't see you, so you can just plop yourself right down. I won't know. But maybe just for fun, take that beautiful inhale, let your diaphragm drop. Buddha belly. Exhale, let the abdomen tighten as you bend your knees and lower slowly on that exhale. Remember, it's a nice long exhale. You can always take another inhale at any point, but no rush. The floor's there when you're ready for it. Once you come all the way down, come into your prone position. Take your hands and stack them. This next part might be more auditory, especially if your camera's not on your computer's not facing. No worries, I'll walk you through. We're going to do some nice stretches here. So stack hand over hand, elbows out to the side, forehead down onto those hands. Take a second. I'm going to come up so that you can hear me, but you stay there. Take a second and just find your diaphragm under you. You're laying on your diaphragm. So just find it, it's there. And as you inhale and feel the diaphragm drop, feel how that dropping allows for the lung space to expand. Oh, we have lungs behind us in your back, right? So being on your stomach now, you can really expand through that kidney level of your lung space. The kidneys don't, the lungs don't technically go into the kidneys, but really just that feeling of filling up, opening up, finding new space. And then as you exhale, feel or just sense or just be aware. Don't worry if you don't like physically feel that diaphragm lifting up. We're going to do that 3 more times, 2 or 3 more times, depending how long you want to take your breaths. So you can ignore my breath count, or you can stay with me. As you inhale, fill up, let that diaphragm drop down, feel that back body open. You might feel something you didn't even notice you had some tension, kind of start to just open, release on that upper back when you're on your stomach. And then as you exhale, soften. Let one more thing go that you didn't need to be carrying around anyway. It's there if you need it later. One more time, really breathing in. Let that lateral movement, remember we did the side bends? Let those lung spaces, those lung lobes move sideways. The intercostal muscles and the rib bones actually pull out to the side in diaphragmatic breathing. So as you inhale, let those intercostals move sideways. Exhale, soften. So just for fun, knowing that you can come onto your stomach and feel that breath. Also, fun fact, this is a position that people who are having a hard time breathing, like people who have severe COVID, will be put into to access their breath. So just knowing that it's there, right? Your breath is there. There's so much exploration you can do. Let's move on to movement. We're gonna stay in our prone position. We're gonna turn our head to our right ear is on the mat. Right hand is under our right ear or cheek. Left hand is free because we're gonna bend our left knee. Aim your your left heel for your left center of your bun, like a little bullseye. Aim your left heel there. Maybe you stay there. Maybe you reach back with your left hand, find your foot, your ankle, maybe your pant leg. Start to come into a quadricep stretch. So we've been doing a bit of focus on the upper body, except for that pigeon. Let's come into the quadricep stretch. We're going to be here for a bit. So basic mechanics. You want your heel to be aiming in versus out, and your knee as close to center line as you can. That's going to get the bulk of that muscle girdle. Again, I'm going to come up. You guys stay there. So when you're breathing into your quadricep stretch, I love the visual. I learned this back in PT school, like, I don't want to say how long ago, but I still remember it. The width of your wrist, the circumference of your wrist is about the breadth of your hip flexor. So your iliopsoas, that big, it's a real kind of tensile muscle. And think about all that sitting that we're doing all day in that pinched position. Ooh, we gotta have a lot of breath to open up that nice, thick, strong hip flexor muscle. So as you breathe into that, just using your left hand to pull that heel in, or if you wanna just be more active with your hamstring, you can just hold that leg there in space. That's still opening up that area. But really thinking about using that breath to bring that heel in a little closer. Now, if you're super bendy and your heel goes into your hip and you're like, I don't really feel anything, then you can pull your left heel to the outside of the left hip. That's fine, as long as you're not pulling your knee with you. Keep that knee back behind you. Don't let your knee go wangle on the side. We'll take 2 or 3 more breaths here. Nice, big, strong muscle. Connects to our low back. So that muscle there dives from the front of your pelvis, from the back of your spine through the bowl of your pelvis into your front groin. Right, so your low back connection to your hip flexor. Oh, no wonder my back's sore, I'm seated all day. There's another reason. The hip flexor can be drawing that spine around, especially if you have imbalances left to right, which is the human condition, to be honest. I don't know anybody except for like Julia Roberts, I think, who's exactly symmetrical. Taking that one more big full breath, really filling yourself up to that back body. Exhale, release, and let your leg come back down. Take a second. Wiggle the hips side to side, just release that out before we go second side. We're going second side hip flexor. Turn that left ear to the mat, left hand under that left cheek or left ear. Remember, keep that right knee close to midline. Try not to let it pull out to the side into a straddle. From there, bend that right knee, reach back with that right hand. I just automatically keep my foot flexed because just my trained awareness of how that keeps my knee stable. For this one, not as crucial because we're not weight bearing on that knee. So whichever way feels best for you. Same idea though, thinking of pulling heel to hip. So the bicep is active, the finger muscles are active, but that front thigh is relaxed. Keep breathing there. Notice if your mind is starting to love it or hate it, either one. I hate this pose, this is boring, whatever it is, just notice. Or, oh, this is so good, I want to stay here for, whatever it is, just notice. Can you step back a little bit? See what's going on. Try not to attach to it, just be there. And that's what the breath does. Go back to the breath, even if it means muting me out for a little bit. Come back to the breath. Inhale, full. Exhale, soften. So serving the anatomical body, that physical body, by stretching that big circumference of the wrist, emphasized hip flexor muscle, which can pull on that low spine. And if you're here, again, if you're not feeling a stretch, see if you need to take your heel outside of your right hip. Another option might be to see if you're overarching your low back, because that's going to shorten the distance that you're trying to lengthen. So then that would mean a tucking of the tail. So a strong tucking of the tail while you're in prone is going to help to then draw the stretch, direct the stretch more to that hip flexor, if that makes sense. Taking 1 or 2 more breaths here, maybe one big, nice, long, full one. Find your inhale. Allow your exhale. Nice. Release that leg. Move your hips back and forth a little bit. We're going to be moving out of this position in just a minute. So we can come to our back for our final part of class. So nothing funky in the transition here, however graceful or not you want to be. You could just do a little hot dog roll onto your back. You could throw in a bonus down dog. And then come to your knees and come around. Whatever you want to do, take a moment. We're going to meet on our back in supine position. And that's where we're going to work through the rest of our class today. So I'm just throwing it out there again. If there's something that you want to work on or you want to address on this last quarter of class, just toss it out there. You can throw it in the chat. If Joyce has access.
Someone mentioned the hips.
The hips? Okay, yeah. Okay, so we did the hip rotators. Perfect, because we did the hip rotators, we did the hip flexors, and now we're going to go to the hamstrings. So all those muscles connect right up to the hip. Let me know if that doesn't address what you mean by the hips. If you need more strengthening or anything else, definitely I have a plan, but I can always modify.
Yeah, it was me. It was Luana. Yeah, stretching out the hips. Mahalo.
Ah, nice. Okay, awesome. Thanks. Okay, around we go. Once you're down on your back, if you're not there already, just take a moment to roll your shoulders under you. Pull your knees in towards your chest and find where your spine meets the earth. Find that groundedness there. Take a little moment, a little fetal position here. And then from here, we're going to go right to that hamstring stretch after we do just a really quick stabilizing for our trunk, for our front and back of our trunk. So, if you hate what I'm saying, you can modify, or you can hang out in fetal. Otherwise, if you're with me, I want you to take your knees and see if you can put them pretty much over your hips, give or take. From there, check to see if your shoulders are starting to hunch forward, and just kind of pull them under you, even if you need to like, manually shove those shoulders under you. When I just did that, my back went into a big arch. So now my big cue is take a little thumbtack, push your belly button down into the spine so much that your spinal bones now connect back to the mat or the floor or the earth. If that's not happening and there's a little space, that's okay, but work not to maximize that space. Try to minimize that space. Hands are going to come down to support you. All we're going to do is real simple here. All I'm going to do is inhale, bring my right heel toward the floor. Maybe it taps, maybe it doesn't. Exhale, pull that right knee just back over the hip. Inhale, left heel away. Exhale back. Keep going, inhale away. Exhale back up. Notice here as you continue, as your back starting to arch, you need to thumbtack, nail that belly, that pico down into the floor, scoop that stomach wall, alternate little baby steps with the legs, really engaging to the stomach wall. Now I know I said this is like a stress-free class, so this is just our way of, sometimes you have this energy, and this is our center of awareness, right? This is our intuition, not out. So we have this power system here. And just bringing our awareness, it's already there. This is a great way to just energize that area, really kind of focus where our strength is, or where we need to push out some of that energy. Doesn't mean we need to be gripping our teeth or furrowing our brow. We just stay in the breath. We'll take 1 or 2 more taps on each leg. If this is super challenging or just uncomfortable in the spine, you can bring your knees closer to you. It won't be as challenging, and that's totally fine. After your last one, hug both knees into your chest. Relax your shoulders. Let them go wherever they want. Rock side to side. Take a big breath in through the nose. Exhale out through your mouth. One more time. Big breath in through the nose. Exhale out through the mouth. Okay, so we're going to work on our hamstrings here just to release them a little bit, getting down into the hip, inner thigh, outer thigh. Right foot to the floor. Pretty grounded on that right foot. Keep that right foot pretty active. Left heel, start to stretch the back of the knee. Generally straight, have a little bend in it. But really activate your left toes toward you. Look at your toes. Pull your toes toward you. Even the pinky toe, which might be like off in outer space. Pull that pinky toe toward you. Feel that activation through the back of the calf muscle. Now push the back of the knee away a little bit more. There's your hamstring. If you haven't found it, take your hand behind your thigh because you're more flexible, and just draw that whole apparatus of your leg toward you. That's all. Just take this moment to find that length from your back hip, that gluteus, sit bone, all the way through the calf muscle to the heel. Meanwhile, admiring the beautiful architecture of your feet. You got socks on because it's cold. That's okay. They're in there. Or shoes because you're formal. I hope not. So my hands are behind my thighs to help draw that top thigh in. I'm making sure I'm not hunching my shoulders or tipping my chin up toward the ceiling. Trying to keep general alignment in the upper spine, even as we stretch open the lower part of the body here. 2 more breaths. Big, strong complex of muscles. The hamstrings are actually 2 big muscles. Then we're going to change it. So you're going to keep that nice stretch. Let's go a little deeper into the thigh, to the inner thigh. Take the hand to the outside of the left shin or thigh, and angle that left foot out to the side. Now, if you're pretty cramped in your space, you might have to kind of put that leg on a chair, bang into your desk, and that's okay. Just starting to open up that left inner thigh here. Maybe push that right knee away, just to get that inseam stretch here. Really a lot of emotions held in the complex of the hips, including the adductors here. Meanwhile, still hanging on to that hamstring stretch. Keep drawing that heel, that top thigh in. Find the shoulder back. Soften or close the eyes. Just breathe. Be here with the breath. One more breath here. Slowly release. Legs come into center. Release back down. Second side, left foot to the floor. If you lost that connection under your jaw, that spine down to the mat. Engage through the mat a little bit stronger, a little bit more core. And then back off of that about 50%. You don't want to have a lot of holding here. Just enough to hold you stable. Right up to the ceiling. Find your feet, find your toes. They do so much for us. The lowly foot. So amazing. You could spend a whole class just admiring our feet, our toes. Draw that pinky toe toward you. Really engage to that outer foot. You might even feel that activation in the outer shin. So much going on. If it's too much, just ignore half of it. Just focus in on what is resonating with you today. Remember, the main focus today is the breath. Everything else is just a little bit more icing. Start to push that left or that right knee away. Maybe you completely wrinkle the back of the knee today. Maybe you don't. But try not to let the big toe win. Let the pinky toe and the big toe be even coming across the finish line. If you want a little bit more stretch, you want to go deeper, hands behind the thigh. Draw that top thigh in. I know some of you might be super bendy and bring that whole leg up from the shin up. That's totally fine. As long as you're in the breath. I like this one to soften, close the eyes. Kind of scan, just do a little scan here. Even here, just erase any wrinkles at the forehead that you forgot to check on that were there. Then anything that's still kind of cluttering, start to just drip it off a little bit. Start to let that exhale give you a little bit more space. I'm going to move to that inseam stretch, taking that right hand to the outside of the leg, anywhere that works. You can even use it as a little prop. I like to take it. Sometimes I'm feeling pretty bendy and I grab the outside of the foot, but if that's not working today for you, just wherever you're at. And then left knee, push it away. Working for a stretch in the inseam, keeping the hips squared, keeping the chest open, keeping the breath big. You need a little bit more. You want this a little bit more aggressive. You can press down on that left inner thigh. Careful not to push on that knee joint itself. So this and the hamstring one, if you have a strap handy, we'll go through this stretch probably next week and a little bit, we'll add to it a little bit. But I'll try maybe send a reminder if you have even your belt or, just an extra shirt you can use to get a little bit more leverage. As you inhale, start to draw everything back to midline. Gonna hug our knees in. And then we're just gonna finish on our rotation stretch here before we go into Shavasana. So if you have anything that's like, yeah, I just really wanted to get to that one, and we're taking a minute here, maybe hit that posture and then join in with us with our rotation stretch to finish before Shavasana. So palms to this, actually let's take palms out to the side if you have the space today. So palms out to the side. I like palms facing up because that encourages keeping our shoulders rotated externally upward. So that encourages our posture. And then from here, use those strong core muscles that we fired up. Pull your knees over to the right. Keep going to the right. So I'm gonna put my feet on the floor. I don't know if you can see, yeah, you can see that. So I put my feet on the floor. So say this is as far as your trunk wants to go. That's fine. You don't need your knees to hit the floor, right? So you can have your feet on the floor and then turn your head to the left and make sure your left shoulder is stuck to the floor behind you. Because you really want this twist to go through the mid spine. Not just the low back, not just the upper back and neck, but through that mid spine. And then from here, if it works for you, you got a little bit more space, let those knees drop. Some of you have fancy variations. You like to do a crisscross or a straight out. I'm just gonna go with vanilla supine rotation here. Taking my right hand onto my left thigh just to get a little bit more that rotation, kind of that helix of rotation through the spine. When we started with the twist when we were seated, now we don't have gravity, we just have relaxation. You have gravity to help us rather than challenge us. So taking advantage of that to get just a little deeper, larger rotation. Taking one more big breath in here. Exhale out. Use those core muscles, pull back into center. Hands to the thighs, and then we'll take second side. Draw those knees to the left. Right arm out to the side. Maybe feet come to the floor, just kind of set where you're at. Sometimes I like to scoot my hips toward the middle a little bit here. And then when you're ready, allow that right ear to float toward the mat behind you. Check that right shoulder blade is down rather than kind of popping out. Maybe the left knee start to settle down into the earth. If it feels uncomfortable to hold them up, you can always prop that block or a book or two, a couple file folders. that you never look at? Anybody have any back cracks? I don't charge extra for chiropractic adjustment. Focusing on that mid back. You're gonna feel this in the low. Like I said, sometimes you're tight on that outer hip, maybe the shoulder, but really try to breathe into that mid thoracic spine. Again, letting go, allowing that earth support, that grounding. A couple more breaths here, maybe one or two. Big breath in. Exhale out. Inhaling to center. And then we'll just settle in for about a 30-second Shavasana, just a mini Shavasana. So I'll walk you through setup, or if you have favorite setup that you already know or go to, please do. Otherwise, palms facing up, roll shoulders under you. Ideally, not a lot of things are touching. Definitely not your props or anything around you. Try not to have it touching you. And then your legs are not touching one another. Your arms are not touching your body. The only thing really you're touching and holding is the earth as the sky looks down upon you. Soften or close your eyes. Come back to that breath that we started in class. Just staying in Shavasana. This is just the final posture in all traditional yoga classes and in our new Maiau stress and release. Taking a moment to start to even let go of control of that diaphragmatic breath and just let your body breathe itself now. You've done the work, you've put the time in, you've paid attention, you've focused. Shavasana, corpse pose, letting go. If the mind starts to dance off, then go back to the breath. Then maybe diaphragmatic breath. Otherwise, just stay here. Listening, feeling for your next inhale. Let that start to open you up a little bit more as you feel your heart reach up toward the ceiling, reach up past the ceiling to the sky, past the clouds, to the sun, the moon, the stars, whatever inspires you above you. And then when you're ready, pull your knees in. Turn yourself to one side to start to make your way up to seated, but take another breath when you get to your side. Just check in. And then press your way up. Come to a seated position. We'll just be here for a second to wrap up our class, our work, our play today together. Maybe you have your palms turned up in a gesture of receiving, or maybe down in a gesture of just calmness. Wherever you're at, soften or close your eyes. Just remind yourself that you can come back to this space, this connectiveness, this groundedness at any time through the rest of your day, through the rest of your week till we meet again, just by tuning back into the breath. Even if it's 2 or 3 breaths, just come back to your center. So take that one breath together. Inhale here. Exhale out. I like to end my classes with bringing our hands to heart center and then sliding them up to third eye center in a gesture of recognizing the light and the love within you. Namaste. Thanks everyone. Anybody still awake? Thank you so much for joining me today. Again, this is our Maiau series. Really appreciate you guys spending the time. If you have any comments or questions, if you can shoot them through Joyce to me. I actually have to run in a second, but if anything right now, please shoot it out. And if not, I'll take any feedback, how you want to adjust the class to make it meet your objectives, what your goals are. And I appreciate, just any type of feedback that you want to give me. Otherwise, you guys have a beautiful rest of your day and breathe.
Mahalo.
Thank you. See you all next Thursday, the 18th, 18 at 12. Bye-bye.
Thanks.